Hello everyone, good evening guys. So let me introduce myself. Myself Prasad here. I have like around 11 years of experience on Informatica and corporate training. And let's start with Informatica. So what is meant by Informatica? So why we required Informatica? So basically Informatica is one of the ETL tool. So in ETL we have like a different ETL tools we have like Informatica, Ab Initio, Data Stage, ODI, Talent. These all are like couple of ETL tools we have, and majority organizations they're using Informatica PowerCenter tool. And why we required exactly Informatica? It's a like we need to extract all the data from various sources. Like 1 second. Fine. So we need to extract data from various source systems, and then we are pulling into staging. From staging to what is the required data we want, we are loading into ADW. So this is like ETL process we have. So before going to ETL, so what type of databases we have? So we have Oracle, SQL, Sybase, DB2, Teradata, Greenplum, Cassandra, Impala. There are like many databases we have. So we need to extract all the data from various databases, and then we need to integrate it into any one target system. So that we are using Informatica PowerCenter tool. But Informatica will support not only relational databases, it will support all relational databases along with flat files. Flat files nothing but a notepad or text documents. Similar way XML files we have. XML means it's a .csv files. And COBOL we have nothing but a mainframe files we have, legacy systems. And we do have like SAP, Hadoop, Salesforce. There are like many source systems we have. So we need to extract all the data from various sources, and then we are pulling into staging. From staging to what is the required data we want, we are loading into EDW. Now let us assume there are like plenty sources we have. We have 1 lakh records in the source. Any one source you can consider, or like many sources you can consider. There are many sources we have. So we have 1 lakh records. So we need to extract all 1 lakh records from sources to staging. We need to pull all the data to staging level. From staging to what is the required data we want, we are loading into EDW. So within the staging level, we have a list of transformations. So we need to implement all the logics within the transformation level. So we have around 30 transformations we have. If you know these all the transformations, we can able to work on Informatica. So this is the key thing of Informatica. So basically what is meant by transformation? So transformation, it kind of where we need to implement all the business logics. Whatever we are getting requirements from the client end. So with all the business logics, where we need to apply it or build it within the transformation level. So out of all transformations, there are two categories. So one is passive, the other one is active. So passive means, before going to passive and active, let us assume my source is a table. So what is meant by table? The basic definition, it's a collection of rows and columns. So basic definition for table, collection of rows and columns. We have to consider only row count, whether it's a passive or active. We can decide based on the row count. The column level we can increase or decrease, doesn't matter. Let me give an example here. So I have source 10 columns with 1 lakh data. Even though after loading into target, might be the column level we can increase or decrease, doesn't matter. The row count should be same, 1 lakh data, I need to populate it. So such cases, this is called passive transformation. So whereas in active transformation, I have same source, 10 columns, 1 lakh data. After loading it to target, there should be a change, either less than source data or greater than source data. So based on that, we need to decide whether it's a active or passive. If it is the same, it's matching same row count from source to target, it's called passive. If there is a change, it's called active transformation. So these are the two categories we have. So any questions till now? Fine. The next two categories we have, those all are connected, unconnected. So connected means there is a source. This is the source we have. So this is the transformation we have. And then this is the target. So in the source we have all the data, but transformation level we don't have any data. Just we have added transformation. I need to extract data from sources to transformation, and then after implementing some logics, then we need to populate into target table. So if we have inputs and then outputs both, that is called connected. Or some of the cases I have only input, there is no output, still it's a connected. Or the other case, I don't have any input, but I have output, still it's a connected. Three ways, either input, output we have both connected, or any one we have, it's called connected. But whereas unconnected, there is no input, there is no output. But whenever I'm choosing any transformation, by default, it will ask either table or file, whatever it is. So it will ask, we need to choose, and we can pick all the data directly into the transformation level. So no need to go for source. So now I have already data in the transformation without input. Even though I don't want to connect outputs, but I have data here. I want to load all the data to target table. So how to do? So by using unconnected lookup or like unconnected transformation, you can consider. So there is no input, there is no output, but I have some data here. How to fetch into target table? So that is called unconnected. So these all are like four categories: passive, active, and connected, unconnected. These four, it's applicable only for transformations, not for source, not for target. So out of all transformations, few as a passive, few as a active. Similar way, few as a connected, few as a unconnected. So once we have started all the transformations from the next session onwards, so you have to tell which all are passive, which all are active. Similar way, which all are connected, which all are unconnected. After completing each transformation, you have to confirm it. So these all are four categories we have. So any queries till now from anyone? Now, in the target level also, we do have relational tables, even though flat file, and then XMLs. Now, our client is asking, my source is a table, so I want to load into table to table or table to file, or table to XML. These are the three areas we can populate it, either table to table, or table to file, or table to XML. Similar way, there is like other sources we have, flat files, COBOL. We can consider either like one table, one flat file, one CSV file, one COBOL, and one Hadoop file. There are like many sources we have, but target should be either table or file or XML, any one format we can choose. So this is the ETL process what we discussed till now. The same process we are implementing in Informatica. So Informatica, we have basically 4 client tools. So which all are Repository Manager, PowerCenter Designer, Workflow Manager, Workflow Monitor. So these are the 4 client tools we have. The first one basically a repository manager. So what is meant by repository manager? So in the left side, so we have like 4 client tools. Under PowerCenter client, we have 4 client tools. Repository manager, mapping designer, nothing but a PowerCenter designer, workflow manager, workflow monitor. In the bottom, we have 4 icons, either repository manager, PowerCenter designer, workflow manager, workflow monitor. These are the 4 client tools we have. The first one, repository manager. So what is meant by repository manager? The basic on the real-time world. In general term, repository means it's a storage area. We can store all the metadata. So whatever we have done, the other 3 client tools, where we can store all the data within the repository manager. And also, if you joined into the account, you got all the access, you got all the requirements. If you want to start your work, first you need to configure your environments. Which all are environments we have in the real time? So it's a development, QA, production. So these all details like development details, QA details, and then production repository details. So these all details will get it from your team. Like we required, if you want to configure the repository, the first thing is required domain name, and then a repository name, and then host name, port number. So these all are 4 major things we required within the repository configuration. So once we have configured repository, we can able to connect based on your login username password. And one more thing I need to add here. So where we need to configure the repository? Under repository manager. If we can configure the repository, by default it should be reflected the other 3 client tools. If we can add within the repository, by default it should be added the other 3 client tools. Even though if you want to edit, it should be reflected the other 3 client tools. Even though if you want to remove it, it should be reflected the other 3 client tools. So repository is the parent, the rest of 3 will act as a child. So any questions about repository manager? So once we have done the complete development part, And then the last minute, how to move code from dev to QA. By the time we required repository manager, until that we don't have any work. Just we need to configure the repositories and we need to create our own project folders. So why means if you want to create any project folder without creating, if you, even though if you have like all the requirements, you cannot able to access other project folders because of others are having different credentials. For you it's having different credentials, so that you need to create your own project folder. Okay, so the repositories and project folder stuff we need to work under repository manager. This is the use of repository manager. On daily basis, out of 4 client tools, daily we are using the last 3 client tools, not repository manager. Very initial time, we can go for it. Fine. The next one, the key thing of PowerCenter Designer, Informatica PowerCenter Designer. This is the key thing of Informatica. So basic mapping designer, nothing but a PowerCenter Designer. So within the PowerCenter Designer, there are 5 components we have. So one is source analyzer, target designer, transformation developer, maplet designer, and then mapping designer. Let me show you in the screen. That's better for you to understand. See, go to PowerCenter Designer. So we have 3 parts here basically. Repository navigator in the left side, and then right side we have the designing part where we need to develop our mapping. In the bottom we have output window. After creating our mapping, if we can save, where I can able to see our mapping is valid or not, in the output window in the bottom. So left side we have repository navigator. So what it contains, repository navigator, it contains all the repositories, and each repository we have many project folders, and each project folders we have subfolders. These all are information we have under repository navigator on the left hand side. And then right hand side we have mapping designer, where we need to develop our mappings based on the requirement. After developing our mappings, if we can save, in the bottom we can able to see in the output window whether this mapping is valid or not. Just we can remove some of the things. Now if we can save, how to save? Use Ctrl S. See in the output window, our mapping is valid. This is the existing mapping. Now this mapping is valid. So like this. These are the 3 parts we have. And the earlier we discussed under PowerCenter Designer, we have 5 components. Which all are those? So these all are 5 components. The first one is source analyzer. Second one is target designer. And then third one, transformation developer. Fourth one is maplet. Fifth one is mapping. Even though out of 5, daily we are using source, target, mapping. This transformation developer, maplet, both are optional. Let's start with source analyzer. So what is meant by source analyzer? See in the name itself, just we can analyze the data. We have only read access. So earlier we discussed different type of source systems. What type of sources we have? Like all relational databases, flat files, XMLs, COBOL, Hadoop files. There are like many source systems we have. Let us assume my source is a table. Tables where we have in the database backend. but Informatica is the middleware tool. So how to import tables from database to Informatica? So by using source analyzer. So come to source analyzer. So in the top we have couple of tabs: repository, edit, view, tools, layout, versioning, sources. Choose sources. So there are many options. So what is my source? Table. Import from database. So we need to provide the connection details and then all credentials, and then we need to import it. Select the schema, which table if you want, we can import it. Replace. So like this, we need to import it. But always source is having read access. We cannot able to change because of the same sources they're using multiple projects. If you can do any changes, it will impact on the other project folder, so that they won't give any write access. Fine. So after importing any kind of source or target or like mapping, we need to save it. Whatever changes we have done, you can save it and see in the bottom that source is got updated. See, already we have, it's got updated like this. So is it clear about source analyzer, why we required? The next one, target designer. So what is meant by target designer? So we need to create our target tables based on the business need. See, now source we have only couple of columns, but target, just now I have seen this one. How many we have here? I've added many things based on the requirement. We need to design. See the name itself, design. We need to design the target table. So we have write access here. We can design it, but after creating target table, we have only columns. There is no data. Only columns we have. So source level we have structure with data, but target we have only structure. So after designing our target table, we have transformation developer, maplet. So these two are optional. Transformation developer, maplet, both are reusable components. Reusable means if we can create one time, the same thing we can call it many requirements. But both are reusable. When we'll go for transformation developer, when we'll go for maplet. So out of all transformation, these are all transformations here, guys. See, each symbol one type of transformations, and each transformation is having their own significance. Each one, these symbols. And come back to transformation developer. Out of all transformations, we can choose any one as a reusable transformation. See now, here we have couple of transformations. Edit. See the transformation type. What we have here? Aggregator. That's it. Even the source qualifier. Or if we can go for transformation level, if we can add any transformation by default, edit. See, it's a reusable. I didn't implement it. I need to save it. By default, it's a reusable. So that at a time we can go for only one transformation as a reusable. So we can go for transformation developer. But my requirement is I want to go for multiple transformations as a reusable. Such cases we can call as a maplet. Okay. But both are reusable. And the last one, mapping designer. So the above four, source, target, transformation, maplet, after importing, after developing, after creating, where we need to call it? Within the mapping designer. So which is the source I've imported, we need to place in the left side. which is the target we have created. I need to place in the right side. Between source and target, we need to add list of transformations, and then we can implement all the business logics based on the business need. So now we have created our mapping. After creating, if we can save, it should be valid under output window. It's valid here. So this is the way we need to develop our mapping under PowerCenter Designer. Now I have developed our mapping. The next part is I want to move data from source to target. So I want to move data from source to target. For that, we can go for third client tool, Workflow Manager. See, this is the one, Workflow Manager. So even though within the Workflow Manager, three parts. The left side we have Repository Navigator, similar kind of under PowerCenter Designer. And then here we have Workflow Designer. Within the PowerCenter Designer, we have Mapping Designer. In the bottom, we have Output Window. These two are common, like Repository Navigator and Output Window both are common, PowerCenter Designer and Workflow. But only change is Workflow Designer. And within the workflow, there are three components: Task Developer, Workload Designer, Workflow Designer. Task Developer, Workload Designer, both similar to Transformation Developer, Maplet Designer. These both are also reusable components. If we can create here, we can call it many workflows the same task. Here one task, here many tasks. And go back to Workflow Designer. So we need to create workflow. Within the workflow, we need to create session. So within the session, this is a session. Right click, edit. So we need to provide our source and target connections. See, there are many tabs: general, properties, config object, mapping tab. We can choose mapping tab. Go to source connection. As of now, this is the correct one. If it's not, we can change it. They will share it to your team members, which are our connections we have. Similar way, target. Even the target also we have. And there are two kind of loads. Target load type. One is normal, the other one is bulk. So normal means if you have 1 lakh records, it will load record by record. It may take 10 minutes of time. If you can use bulk mode, at a time bunch of records it will fetch. It will complete within 2 to 3 minutes. So which one is faster? Bulk mode. But whenever we are using bulk mode, there are some drawbacks. What kind of drawbacks we have? If my target is a table, if you have any indexes on target table, it will not allow. The job will get fail. Again, we need to drop the indexes and then we'll start our job. Workflow nothing but a job. But whereas in normal load, even if you have any indexes on target table, it will fetch all the data, but it will go for record by record. And one more drawback, while using bulk load, I have 1 lakh records. After loading 90,000 records, my job got failed. If we can rerun the job, again it starts from beginning. But I don't want. Wherever my job got failed, I want to start from there itself. But bulk mode, we cannot able to. Whereas in normal load, we have option session recovery option. We can use that. It will start from 90,001 onwards. So most of the cases we can use normal board, but the performance wise, there are like multiple options we have. Partitioning we have to increase the performance, so that whenever we are using normal, we can go for partitions and then we can create it. But bulk mode, if there is a one-to-one, yeah, there is a huge volume we have, such cases we can go for bulk mode. Fine. So these all are under session. So after creating session, these all are job. Workflow nothing but a job. We can run the job. How to run the job? Click on workflow, start workflow. So the fourth client tool, monitor, we have by default monitor get open. So what is the use of monitor? Just monitoring the jobs, whether my job is succeeded or failed. If it is succeeded, see my job is succeeded. So how I can find out how many source success rows, target success rows? Select the session. This is the session. Right click, run properties. See here, 27 we have, but target it's loading 6 records. Based on the business need, we are loading 6 records. Even though my job got failed, we can able to see here what is the error we have. And still you are not able to understanding the entire process. We have under monitor session log. Select the session, right click, session log. See, we have clear cut information. What is the repository name, server name, folder name, workflow name, mapping name, session name. So how many records got it's inserted initial time, how many records got read. So all information we have here. Inserted rows, affected rows, but source level we have many. See, source qualifier level 27 we have, but based on the requirement, the output rows we have only 6. Even the job got failed, we can go for this log. We have like complete information here, so we need to check it under log. The job got failed, we can check it here. Get session log. All information we have. Where is the issue we have? Either source level or target level or mapping or workflow or database or file level issue. So we have complete information here. Based on that, we need to fix the issues. So once we have done, my job is succeeded, it's got loaded with 6 records, right? Go to target database, we can check it. So we have basically SQL Developer and Toad. Some of the clients they're using SQL Developer, some of them they'll go for Toad, but both are a bit similar. Go to database, we can write the query. This is the table we have, and we can check the data in the database, our expected data is loading or not. Even though within Informatica also we can see the data without connecting database, we can see here, but if it's a huge volume, we cannot able to. If it is a less volume we have, we can do it. How to see in the Informatica level? Go to target, right click, preview data. So we need to provide the connection, username, password. And then see here, we are getting data here. If it is less volume we have, if it is a huge volume, we cannot able to. We need to go for database and then we can check it. So this is the normal process for any requirement within the Informatica. And these all are about 4 client tools. So do you have any questions here, guys? Fine. So once we have done any requirement, similar kind of process, the next step is we need to maintaining all naming standards. Mapping means m_name, and also go to mapping edit. We need to provide the all comments like what is the use case of this mapping, and each transformation we need to write 1-line description why we are using this transformation, because of if any new resource is joined into your account, they can easily understand while choosing this mapping only. No need to go for even KT also. They can easily understand if they can go through each transformation mapping level. Like every transformation, we need to apply some description. So mapping means m_name. These all are naming standard document. You'll get it from your team. They'll share it to you. You need to follow the same process. And even the workflow, WF_mapping name. Even the session, S_mapping name. So we can give any kind of name. Even the mapping is different, workflow is different, session is different. But in the real time, we do have many mappings, many workflows. If you want to identify which mapping is related to which workflow, it's very difficult. We can find out, but it may take longer time. So instead of that, we can choose all naming standards. You can track easily. You knows like what you have done, but others they cannot able to understand. So that always we need to maintaining naming standards. So once naming standards is done, then we'll go for unit testing. So in unit testing, we need to follow what is the source and target monitor level, the count, my job is succeeded or not, and then parameter file, the server level, whenever we ran the job, the parameter file got created or not, log file, and then the source and target count, and then the metadata validation, and then what is the core business logics we have. These are our steps we need to take the screenshots and then we need to place it into the Word document. This for your internal reference. So now we have done completed on requirement. After 6 months, there was an issue with your developed mapping. So if they'll come back to you whenever you have worked on it, by the time this is the exact result I got it, this is the proof for that unit test case document you can show up them. So later point of time, they have done like many changes. So maybe because of that also they have issues now. So just it's for reference for you, you need a UTC documents. So once UTC is done, then we'll go for code review with lead or answer team. So once its code review is done, then we are moving code from dev to QA, the deployments. So by the time we required repository manager, until that we don't have any work with repository manager. So this is the general process we have. So any questions you have here? So these all already we discussed. Output window, task view, create workflow, tasks and all on the workflow designer. Fine. So the next part is hardware configurations. If we have any laptop, it's required minimum 6 GB RAM and then 1 TB hard disk and Core i5. These are the like best configuration. At least minimum thing, these three. And also we need to install Informatica and either SQL developer or Toad, anyone. It's up to which is available for you, SQL developer or Toad. Even though in the client side also, some of the clients they'll go for SQL developer, some of them they'll go for Toad. It's up to client requirement. Okay. So these all are we have in the demonstration session. So the other things we'll cover the next sessions. So any questions you have, you can ask me, guys. So if you don't have any questions, we'll wind up the session. Okay, guys. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.